Commutation Readings are made possible thanks to viewers like you. Please visit us at commutationconstruct.locals.com. Memberships are free to start with coupon code CCFREE. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our construct readings, or reading constructs. I'm still getting used to the name, but today you can see the format's a little different. Before I was reading through Kindle, and but my book goes a little out of order. I've got some issues with it going backwards through the text. So to make it simpler, I have just found the Federalist Papers and Anti-Federalist Papers on the federalistpapers.org. Pretty straightforward. So we're going to go through it here, and yeah, let's just, before we jump into it, make sure you like, subscribe, down below, if you're watching on YouTube, BitChute, whatever it is. If you like this content, do that. The support really helps. And check us out at commutationconstruct.locals.com if you so choose. Memberships are free, so you can comment, get exclusive content, all that there. In the future, you'll be able to get exclusive content. For now, the exclusive content is our audio podcast, and more will be coming as the website develops. But yeah, so let's hop into it now. Today we are starting the Anti-Federalist Papers. So we've got the Federalist Papers on Tuesdays, Anti-Federalist Papers on Thursday. I know there are more Federalist Papers than Anti-Federalist, but this is how we're gonna try to go through it. So I hope you guys don't mind. We're gonna run through this, and we'll figure out the Federalist Paper stuff later towards the end. But yeah, for now, let's get started with Anti-Federalist Paper number 1, General Introduction, a dangerous plan of benefit only to the aristocratic combination. And yeah, I know they have the title here twice. I don't know why the website does that. But all right. I am pleased to see a spirit of inquiry burst the band of constraint upon the subjects of the new plan for consolidating the governments of the United States as recommended by the late convention. If it suits to the genius and habits of the citizens of these states, it will bear the strictest scrutiny. The people are the grand inquest who have a right to judge of its merits. So, again, it's straightforward. Just setting up the fact that, hey, we're redoing the Constitution. We're not leaving the Articles of Confederation behind. We're going to redo the Constitution, and our greatest minds are going to come together, and we're going to let the people decide, hey, what should we do? Very simple. All right. The hideous daemon of aristocracy has hitherto had so much influence as to bar the channels of investigation, precluding the people from inquiry and extinguishing every spark of liberal information of its qualities. Corruption, basically. At length, the luminary of intelligence begins to beam its effulgent rays upon the important production, the deceptive mist cast before the eyes of the people by the delusive machinations of its interested advocates begins to dissipate. As darkness flies before the burning taper, and I dare venture to predict that in spite of those mercenary dictators, the plan will have a candid and complex examination. Wow, that is some language. They did not hold back. When people speak, when people just start saying things and they use the largest words they can, it's just like, dude, just be straightforward with me. But that's kind of common for this time. People go into great lengths to use specific words for a lot of argumentative purposes in order to draw people's attention. So, and the eloquency had more value back then than I would say it has now, as to the way it appeals to people, as to the necessity of it. At this point, though, I'm just gonna go through, try to get it as plain English as we can. So the luminary of intelligence begins to beam. Beam its effulgent rays upon the important production. So they're just saying they're informing people, and I'm pretty sure he's making fun of the aristocrats and the people who kind of have vested interest in how the Constitution turns out, and the Articles of Confederation and all that. So I read this as one giant, like, hey, there's a lot of corruption. We're going to examine this like tooth and nail. We're a complete examination. So pretty simple, straightforward. Let's get going. Those furious zealots who are cramming it down the throats of the people without allowing them either time or opportunity to scan and weigh it in the balance of their understandings bear the same marks in their features as those who have long been wishing to erect an aristocracy in this commonwealth. Okay. So we should mention that it says here of Massachusetts. That's because many of the states at this time were they were looking at this individually, state by state, getting their own people to decide what they wanted. So any individual state actually could have backed out, but we all know that they all ended up going together with us in the end. But yeah, so he doesn't hold back. He just goes in straight for the he goes straight for the throat by calling them out for the Federalists cramming down what they want down people's throats. So that's this is pretty sharp language for the time. Just showing that, hey, they're trying to force this on you and just to manipulate you so that they can have power, they can have their aristocracy. So, their menacing cry is for a rigid government. It matters a little to them of what kind, provided it answers that description. So again, they don't care what kind of government it is, they just want to be a rigid government. They want to be powerful. They want it to be able to do what they want it to do. Yeah, so, I mean, that I'm a long-winded person. So, when I see this, like, they have all the flowery language, but when I see for their cry is for a rigid government, it matters little to them of what kind. That right there, that is a very nice way that they managed to really encapsulate the point of the negative side of the Federalists, where they were trying to make a strong central government that's rigid, it has its laws, it's set, everything kind of in order as they have it, or as they wish to have it. All right. As the plan now offered comes something near their wishes, and is the most consonant to their viewpoints of any they can hope for, they come boldly forward and demand its adoption. So, people can easily see this stuff in modern politics, but they're basically saying they're not giving you a choice. This actually reminds me a lot of the way the ACA was delivered to people. If anyone remembers back to that, Pelosi was saying, well, we need to pass it to see what's in it. It was very much a bill that was forced in, where people barely had time to read it, if at all. It was like it was over 1,000 pages. People were given days to read it. There was no way anyone could get through the whole thing, and it was really kind of chaotic and just rammed through the House. So that's kind of what they're basically insinuating that the Federalists are doing the same thing here. They brand with infamy every man who is not as determined and zealous in its favor as themselves. They cry aloud the whole must be swallowed, or none at all, thinking thereby to preclude any amendment. They are afraid of having to abate of its present rigid aspect. Can I be honest? This sounds like the arguments between the Republicans and Democrats, and this argument here just makes me think of it just makes me feel like strong central government versus small government. Like, I'm pretty sure that we're basically still the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists in these days. But yeah, so they want to be rigid. They want to they're making every man who doesn't automatically agree with it, they brand them with infamy. They make them evil, terrible. They are unpatriotic. Well, again, there are a lot of those arguments. Oh, they want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. They're evil. They want grandma to die. They want to take away your Social Security. Yeah, and again, you get that on both sides these days. But this is definitely them calling it out from one side back in the early days of around the adoption of our Constitution. So they have strived to overawe or seduce printers to stifle and obstruct a free discussion, and have endeavored to hasten in its decision before the people can duly. I think is that supposed to be duly? That's probably supposed to be duly. Can duly reflect upon its properties. So yeah, this is a big, a pretty big shout out, or not shout out. This is them really calling them out and be like, hey, they are really trying to basically close off any kind of argument here. And again, overall or seduce printers. They're corrupt, and they're trying to buy off the papers essentially to just print what they want to be printed, and not any arguments against it. That would be a massive scandal these days. See Facebook and Twitter. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. That is a blatant call for corruption from the side of the Federalists. So it's interesting to read this, because reading it, you can feel that there are some correlations with modern society. So let's keep going through it. See what we've got. They strive to. All right, right here. All right. In order to deceive them, they incessantly declare that none can discover any defect in the system but bankrupts who wish no government. So they're saying only anarchists can find fault in it. Let's see. And officers of the present government who fear to lose a part of their power. Okay, so they're saying the only people who are arguing against it are the only people who argue against the new Constitution are anarchists and people within the Articles of Confederation who lose some power through the new Constitution. So he's calling out the people who are basically calling him out in this. He's pointing out what he's pointing out what they're going to say to try to belittle his own words. So this is kind of an important line here, just for the point of the argument. I think it's an important line. All right. These zealous partisans, again, it's kind of funny when you think about it in today's terms, because it's the same old story, really. These zealous partisans may injure their own cause and endanger the public tranquility by impeding a proper inquiry. The people may subject the whole to be a dangerous plan from such covered and designing schemes to enforce it upon them. Well, that again, when the government forces things through, people are suspicious, and it's crazy how much you could see this related to a bunch of modern policy, because there are things that recently get passed, and when they're forced through, they are subject to this whole issue of feeling force, or issue of feeling very partisan. This is why also we even see this with Amy Coney Barrett, ACB, in her Supreme Court hearings to see if she'll be nominated, and people are like, "Hey, it's being rushed. It's not good." And again, it's gotten people kind of in a tizzy, so endangering public tranquility. So that's that's the perception they're going with that one. But it's just a good example of how reading these isn't just to define what they were, but we're seeing how it relates to modern society, how we can see it in modern politics. That I feel like that's an important part of this. So that's kind of where we're going with my analysis here, trying to get to all of this. All right. Compulsive or treacherous measures to establish any government whatever will always excite jealousy among a free people. Better remain single and alone than blindly adopt whatever a few individuals shall demand, be they ever so wise. Always excite jealousy among free people. So yeah, basically, people who are free, people who see themselves as free, they're gonna get. They use the term jealousy, and we noticed this with the original Federalist Papers. It's the same way here in the Anti-Federalist Papers, where jealousy does not mean what it means today. It doesn't just mean like greed, but or you could say it means greed, but it's kind of used colloquially in a different way here, where they're talking about people sort of being like, well, if you can do that, why can't I? If you want things free, well, be like, I just want to be left free. It's kind of like jealousy to do my own thing. So it's almost counterintuitive, because it's less, because it ends up becoming less of a jealous of what other people have, and more of a jealous that they just want to do what they want to do. So that seems to be a bit of a difference of the use. All right. I had rather be a free citizen of the small Republic of Massachusetts than an oppressed subject of the great American empire. And we should take note. America, through the federal government, was designed to be an empire. This has been on both arguments. Both of them have used the word empire to describe the federal government that they established. A lot of people don't necessarily think of America as an empire. They think, oh, America wasn't really an empire at the beginning. It may not have been an empire till it really hit its stride during the Industrial Revolution. No, they designed this from the beginning to be an empire, which is also why a lot of people are just like, hey, the end of empires is, and this is why I'm doing actually my regular podcast on the rise and fall of empires, because the average empire only lasts between 200 and 250 years. We are right in that sweet spot right now, so we'll see if we're able to overcome it or not. But yeah, we'll be getting more into that on this Saturday. Be sure to check out the Construct Cast for more on that. But yeah, so it's interesting to see that, yes, we are establishing an American empire, and the point is, we want to be free citizens. So, essentially, if the American empire becomes oppressive, that if the federal government becomes oppressive, the American experiment has failed. That is something to note. When we feel that the federal government is oppressing the states, that's when it's failed. Also, we want to be free citizens of our small states, too. We don't want to just be citizens of the large empire, but of our states. And so if our states become oppressive, that too is a sign that that the American experiment has failed. So just, I want to throw that out there. Again, this is also why you see people like Dave Rubin not wanting to give up on California, because if people give up on any of the states, there is a failure within the American system, and it will all crumble from that. One falls, we all fall. That's how it inevitably would end up happening. So this is important to note, and we'll probably this is way ahead of time because there are so many of these. But by the end of the Federalist, Anti-Federalist papers, we're probably going to go into some Civil War stuff because I feel like this type of stuff relates to it. But maybe I'll get into that in my podcast later on. But for now, just want to throw that out there. All right. Let all act understandingly, or not at all. If we can confederate upon terms that will secure to us our liberties, it is an object highly desirable. It is an object highly desirable because of its additional security to the whole. So again, if it builds upon our liberties, if it secures our freedoms, our liberties, then of course we want that. That will be the best thing because that's what we all want. Plus, it has the benefit of extra security. We're a stronger nation when we're together. So that is why we do want this. We just want to make sure that it's following the benefit of the free people. If the proposed plan proves such as one, I hope it will be adopted, but if it will endanger our liberties as it stands, let it be amended in order to which it must and ought to be open to inspection and free inquiry. So we've got to analyze the Constitution. We got to make sure that, hey, it's gonna defend our rights. And remember, our Constitution did not have a Bill of Rights when it was first adopted. The Bill of Rights came, I think, 4 years later. I think it was like 87 that our Constitution was adopted, and 1791 when the Bill of Rights were adopted. These Anti-Federalist papers are what got us our Bill of Rights. These are what guaranteed us our liberties. So it is worth noting just how important these are and what they do for us. These arguments do go places. That's kind of the point. The inundation of abuse of abuse that has been thrown out upon the heads of those who have had any doubts of its universal good qualities have been so redundant that it may not be improper to scan the characters of its most strenuous advocates. So again, this is a personal attack on the people advocating for the Bill of Rights, or not for the Bill of Rights, for the Constitution. He's saying, hey, they are so quick to shout down their competition. They are so quick to abuse the people who even remotely challenge the qualities, who think there's anything to challenge about it. And again, you can kind of see this stuff in modern political discourse. I genuinely feel like, just from reading this, I genuinely feel like given the perspective of the Anti-Federalists, I genuinely feel like the Federalists are basically what the modern Democrats are, and Anti-Federalists are essentially what the Republicans maybe not are, but kind of claim to be. I mean, the Republicans are still kind of too corrupt to be that. in all honesty, but this is what they kind of present themselves as. And you can see this because in modern politics, because I mean, the first call against any conservative argument is that the person's a racist. The person is a Nazi. There's something evil, something terrible. So when you see personal attacks like that, that sort of stuff is very much what they're calling out here, and it is an age-old thing. It's not just modern politics. This has been here from our founding. It will first be allowed that many undesigning citizens may wish its adoption from the best motives, but these are modest and silent when compared to the greater number who endeavor to suppress all attempts for investigation. So, a lot of people are wanting it. There are people who do want it with the best of heart, the best of intentions, but those people are they're not going out and proclaiming it. And then there are lots of people who are being loud, trying to keep down the people who are arguing against the new Constitution. So I think that's what's being said here. It's just the people who are being peaceable about it are shy and quiet. The people who are being loud are trying to really stomp out the people who are making counter arguments, like in the Anti-Federalist papers. So these violent partisans are for having the people gulp down the guiled pill blindfolded whole without any qualification whatever. Oh, wow. Oh, man, that is... Sorry, my nose is itching a bit. That's... Wow. The guiled pill blindfolded. That's some language. But, yeah, so... They're just basically he's just trying to make such a point of, over and over again, of they want us to do this. They want us to just accept this. Just accept it. And he's really trying to strike that home that there needs to be a conversation. That is the point of this. And I think that this first Anti-Federalist paper does a really good job of building this. It does a good job of selling you on that. You know what? We need to have a conversation. It's pretty strong. I think there definitely probably were some negative responses to this, but in general, I'm liking what I'm seeing here because it is like, hey, we just want the conversation. These consist generally of the noble order of Cincinnatus, C's, I guess is what he wrote. So remember, the people during this time, they used a lot of they weren't using their main names, they were using pen names for a lot of this. Like Federalist one was Implebius, I believe. So someone else is going by Cincinnatus, so he's just calling him C's, just for simplicity. So remember, this is referring to a specific person. So these consist generally of the noble order of Cincinnatus, holders of public securities, men of great wealth and expectations of public office, bankers and lawyers. These with their train of dependents from the aristocratic combination. So, yeah, just kind of laying out all the moneyed interest. The lawyers in particular keep up an incessant declamation for its adoption. Like greedy gudgeons, they long to satiate their voracious stomachs with the golden bait. Wow. Okay. The numerous tribunals to be erected by the new plan of consolidated empire will find employment for 10 times their present numbers. These are the loaves and fishes for which they hunger. They will probably find it suited to their habits, if not to the habits of the people. There may be reasons for having but few of them in the state convention, lest their own interests should be too strongly considered. Okay, I'm gonna comment on all of that because that all is saying a lot. He's basically calling out that a huge portion of the Federalists are lawyers, and lawyers like to make laws and they love to be in control of what laws are and what the government is, because then they can create a system where they just get paid over and over, because they can create a system that requires lawyers more and more. If you've noticed in the U.S. over the past 50 to 70 years, we have gone from a mostly either local business or former military background in the House to being a largely lawyer-based House of Representatives, which I think is the most insane thing ever. We are having lawyers make our laws, which is why our laws are now hundreds to thousands of pages long. So you need to hire like 5 lawyers just to be able to understand and constitute them. It builds bureaucracy. It builds all these legal cases, all the need for lawyers to be in all these different industries. This is what lawyers do when they are in government. And this is what we are being warned about here, and what they warned about with the Constitution, that lawyers are trying to get in and abuse it so that they will become the most important thing. Because in the end, it is the lawyers who fight about the law. It is the lawyers who will be fighting about when the people hire them. They are the ones who are hired by the people for figuring out legal disputes. Legal disputes all fall under the law. There is a massive conflict of interest between lawyers and government positions. I would go so far as to say that for me, if I were to design a constitution, I would make it impossible for lawyers to actually hold places within the government. I would say lawyers can only go down the path of judgehood. And that may be an unpopular opinion, but there is just such a conflict of interest between legislating and being a lawyer that, in my mind, I cannot personally really find any way where they can remove that. I haven't put too much thought into that, admittedly, but I can't find a good argument for saying that there wouldn't be a conflict of interest. That's kind of my positioning on it. So, yeah, this is big, and I think it's insanely relevant just to the way our modern government is structured, because we are full of lawyers. It's kind of crazy, because this would not have been too big of an issue like 70 years ago. This would have been something to be like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Like, lawyers would have been bad. Now we're at a point where we have the lawyers, and it's like, oh, that explains so much. That explains why all these laws end up being 50 million pages long. This is why every law has all these stipulations for individual states coming in and sort of taking a piece of the pie to get their signature on. If they don't get their thing, then if there is no quid pro quo, they're not signing on. And that's basically what modern government is: lawyers doing quid pro quo work and all this other nonsense. Except it's almost not even quid pro quo anymore, because they basically just assume that people won't sign on without doing anything. So they just offer, like, hey, what do you want in this? So it's almost not even a quid pro quo, because they're not asking for it. because they're just assuming the person's going to want something. So they're just like, okay, what do you want? Okay, we're adding it in. Done. Once they have enough people's personal interest in there to get it to pass, they run it through. So that's kind of how I feel about all that stuff. Or maybe they'll just do it for everyone in their party and maybe a few people outside if they need the extra votes, stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy. I hate lawyers, man. I like some lawyers, but I hate lawyers, just as a rule, especially when it comes to government. So the time draws near for the choice of delegates. I hope my fellow citizens will look well to the characters of their preference and remember the old patriots of 75. They have never led them astray, nor need they fear to try them on this momentous occasion. A Federalist. So, Anti-Federalist. He is, you say, hey, just look at the people who signed our Declaration of Independence. Look at the people who made us a nation. They really fought for us. They really care for us. Like, don't just trust anyone, but trust these guys because they're the ones who, these are the ones who said, we want to be a nation. We want to be independent. We want to be free. And we want to sacrifice for our people. So he's basically pointing out the proven class there. But yeah, so that was the Anti-Federalist paper number 1. And I'm just going to show you guys this. If we go back here, if it'll load. There we go. So how many pages do we have here? So they've got them nice and numbered for us here. So we've got all the way down here, 85. Of course, some of these are merged together, but we've got 85 Anti-Federalist papers. So we're going to be doing this for about a year and a half. So plenty of stuff to look forward to. I'm going to actually see if we have the Federalist papers here too, in addition to the Anti-Federalist. I think this might just be a bunch of articles. First Amendment, Second Amendment, politics. I'm not sure. I'll look for that stuff later. Oh, shoot. Oops. All right. Well, all right. That is our work. That is the Federalist Papers. I hope you guys, or the Anti-Federalist Papers, Anti-Federalist number 1. I hope you guys have enjoyed. This has been, it's been a real pleasure getting the chance to talk with you all about this, read through it with you, and kind of give my take and understanding. There's not too much to analyze with this first one, honestly. It's pretty straightforward. This is just kind of the beginning. It's, man, I'm sorry, I'm having a blank right now, but this is kind of just the establishment. This is a setup for what's to come, and it's the beginning of the conversation. That is what the first entry for both the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers are. They are the beginning of the conversation. So I thank you guys for joining me on this. Remember, like, subscribe, comment below if you are on YouTube or BitChute or anywhere else you can watch this. Oh, there are other places? Yes, you can go to commutationconstruct.locals.com. Again, it's the name of the channel, .locals.com. And there is a link in the description below. You can follow me there. You can support me there. Remember, every bit of support helps. We are community funded, and we are doing everything we can to remain free to access for everyone. Of course, there will be some member exclusive stuff, but in general, our rule is try to be free to access, free to start, coupon code CC free. Again, you can get a full membership with coupon code CC free, so you do not have to worry about paying right away. That coupon code is good for 1 full year, and I will be making more as we go along. So If you never want to pay and you just want full access, you can, but you got to go to commutationconstruct.locals.com in order to get that full access. Because there is stuff that's going to be there that is not going to be on YouTube. There's stuff that's going to be there that's not going to be on BitChute or Minds or Twitter or Gab or anywhere else. So be sure to follow me there. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. It has been a pleasure. See ya.